Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another episode of the Spartan Shadows podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris. I'm joined with my co-hosts Zach and Emmett. We're back for another episode. Crazy week of MSU news. Recruiting season's off and running, like we said the last few weeks, and it's still chugging along, steaming out news for us every single day. So we're going to touch on some of that. Busy week for MSU football recruiting wise, picking up a handful of commits, hosting some more official visits. And then basketball actually had some news that came out too. We'll end it with a little hockey news, of course, and then get you primed for the last week before official visit season or the recruiting dead period comes to a close or comes to open, and then recruiting should die off until the season starts. So getting ever so closer to college football season, and exciting times are here. So Zach, Emmett, thanks for joining us, or thanks for joining me today. And how you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing, Emmett?
I'm doing pretty good. A lot of news on the recruiting trail this last week, so it's been a great time to feel like every time you check your phone, there's another player joining the Spartans.
I was just gonna say I kept getting notifications from Jonathan Smith, and it's like every single day, and I'm like, "There's another gift. There's another gift," and I'm like, "Who's coming next?" It's really exciting. And obviously,
For
this is
sure.
going to be an episode full of talking about obviously who committed and all that kind of stuff. So, been an interesting last week, but been a kind of a roller coaster, if you have to say, a little bit of good news for football, a little bit of disappointing news for basketball, and just a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we'll get right into recruiting. MSU during the end of last week, start of this week, was on a 6 day stretch of commitments. We had 6 days in a row where new commitments unveiled their predictions and pledges to MSU. So that was a fun time. Recruiting momentum was definitely as good as it's been in quite some time. This week, since we last recorded, which would have been Friday the 13th, was our last record date, and it's Saturday, June 21st right now. So in this past week or so, MSU has picked up 6 new recruits, bringing the total of, well, I guess the total class, I should say, to 18. And the 6 recruits we picked up are, we'll start with Famiatu Saleh from Seattle, Washington, edge rusher. Siale, sorry if I mispronounced the name there, but I gave it my best shot. We had Adam Shaw, from the linebacker from New Jersey, TJ Umanora, cornerback from Georgia, Zachary Washington, wide receiver from Illinois, and then we had a flip. Jordan Van was committed to Virginia, flipped over to us. He is a safety from Middletown, Ohio. And finally, we also had Tristan Comer, offensive tackle from Freeland, Michigan, commit. So 6 new commits joining the class, positions all over the place, all over the states. So nice, good mix there. I guess we'll start there, guys. What were your immediate thoughts of those 6 players, and what stands out to you the most so far of the 6 new Spartans?
Yeah, so this last week was really full of commits of people that have obviously high potential. You mentioned the commit for the defensive end, which I believe was a win over Washington, if I
Yep.
remember correctly. That's probably obviously one of the better commits of these last week. You also have Shaw, which is obviously a legacy, a recruit, which obviously you're not really going to complain about that. Keep it within the Spartan family. And then you talked about the tackle, Tristan, was it Cormier?
Comer.
Comer.
Comer, yeah.
He, I believe, is pretty new at the offensive line position.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely one of those that obviously he's still trying to learn, still trying to grow into a little bit. So I feel like that has a potential there where it could be a really, really good player. Maybe it takes a little bit longer to get, but I feel like that's just kind of a swing at a guy that has a bunch of potential that can build into maybe being a contributor on this offensive line in the future. And I think it's just full of just really good players that are going to be contributors for this team. Some maybe have a higher ceiling than others, but you have a mix of guys that you beat out for really good teams, and then you have a guy like Tristan that is a guy that's kind of on the upswing right now. So I don't think you can complain too much about this last week.
Yeah, for sure. Tristan Comer was one of those players that he's new to the offensive line, but had the athleticism. I believe he was also offered by Northwestern, for example, so he had a couple of those schools that recognize that talent, and he was slowly starting to. He's one of the players who he might have a rise, or might really not, or might really get overlooked just because he's so new to the position and doesn't have those years of offensive line camps and experiences and scouts watching him that some of your top prospects do. And that's perfectly fine when you look at a class with Campbell, Bucky, and Eli Bickle. You really have two players who are almost viewed as a blue chip. And it's hard to say with an offensive line that they'll play day one, especially in the Big Ten. But you have those two offensive linemen who you could see potentially going in the NFL draft after 3-4 years with Bucky and Campbell. Then you have those players who might take a year or two to really grow into it, then take, that extra year to really mature and be ready for that Big Ten physicality for the offensive line. And then you have 3 years of impact playing after the freshman redshirt seasons. And this class has a very good balance of blue chip and prospects to develop. Even if you look in the tight end room, you see Eddie Whiting as really your blue chip guy. Obviously, he's received a downgrade in ranking since committing to MSU. I'm still bitter about that. But then you also have Joey Caudill, who was just in on a visit last week, the first commit of the class. He's a high school quarterback who is going to really grow into that tight end position during his time at MSU. And you have that healthy mix of players for now and players who 2-3 years down the line, they're going to be the where did he come from, when in reality they've been perfecting their craft behind the scenes and doing all the little things right and finally get their chance to shine. So overall, this group, honestly, I'm very excited for. Adam Shaw, obviously, one of those players who I originally had him off my board after committing to Rutgers, opened up his commitment, and I put MSU right in that top slot because if he's decommitting and then coming to MSU, obviously good things are going to happen. I believe he and his family wanted to get back to New Jersey and make sure that, hey, those feelings you had for MSU are still where they're at now, that you're not on campus, right? Because the morning after he got back from East Lansing, he get up bright and early because he's making his pledge to MSU at 9 in the morning, I believe it was. So he's just one of those players that him as the linebacking group, along with Braylon Hodge, I feel really good about that linebacking duo for the future. Obviously, I'd love to see one more linebacker. Also of note, this class still does not have a running back after all those commits. So that's something to watch out for. And I would still say another defensive lineman or two would be great. Designated edge, because Ciale is an edge. He's viewed more traditionally as a strong side edge as opposed to your pass rushing edge. So obviously, you'd love to see one of those linebacker edge prospects come through.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we're still working on a couple pieces of the class. This weekend in official visits wasn't as jam packed as others. We've got some pieces that we're trying to maybe close some position groups. More on that in a few minutes. But I've also read some rumblings that we're working on trying to get a running back in the class, as well as fill out some more defensive line spots like Emmett mentioned. So hopefully more to come on that. But as far as the class goes, you guys hit it on the head for the most part. Comer, he originally was a tight end, I believe, and then has made the transition to offensive line. And like you guys said, has the talent, a lot of raw potential, that just hasn't really spent a lot of time at the position. Coach Mahalchek, I think, is the perfect offensive line coach to kind of help with that. He's developed a lot of guys in his tenure, put a lot of players in the NFL, but more of those like type of players that you get and kind of work with them for years and years, and then have them develop into the player that they are, not just the top 10 or top 100 kid that comes running in and is probably going to be an NFL starter from day one. So I think he's got the chance to learn from the best. Another piece of this class that I'm really excited about is Zachary Washington, the wide receiver. A kid can flat out fly. Rumors having it that he runs about a 4.37 40, which, hey, we've needed a speedster wide receiver, I think, for a while, and he certainly fits the bill. Got him, kind of beat out Wisconsin for him, 6'2", 185 pounds roughly. So even though he's more of a speedy guy, he's not the short, speedy guy that we've kind of went after in the past. When I say short, I mean like the smaller wide receiver build that we've went in the past. Two, obviously, still some decent size. So I think he's going to be a good piece, especially if we continue to fill out the class the way we're all kind of hoping will. I think he'll be a good duo to pair with one of the receivers we'll hopefully get. If not, somebody else that we bring in. I think hopefully he'll be a a good piece to the puzzle. So Adam Shaw, another obviously big one. I know we touched on him a lot, but he's one of the players. I know Emmett's fascination with MSU players getting downgraded once they commit to MSU. I still think
Don't get
that
me
Adam
wrong.
Shaw will eventually. I still think Adam Shaw could eventually see the bump to a 4-star when the cycle's done. Same with possibly Ciale if they don't get that Emmett downgrade for commitment.
Hey,
So
that's not my
um,
downgrade. It's just the fact that I've noticed it as a trend. Zach Washington went down 5 positions between when he got crystal ball to MSU and when he committed, and that was about a 12-hour span. I want to point out he went down 5 positions in national rankings. Fun fact.
yeah,
I do want to say one thing though, is that we have a need for speed, and Zachary Washington fills that need.
For sure.
There you go.
yeah. No, he does. And I know some of the other receiver prospects we have been going after also were speedsters. I don't know if necessarily that they will end in commitments, but you can definitely see speed was part of the receiver class needs for this cycle just by the players Jonathan Smith and Coach Hawk have kind of targeted. So it's exciting to see and add maybe a little bit of firepower to the offense here for the next couple of seasons.
Also, I do want to clarify there is also Corey House committed as an edge. I know I said that edge help is needed. That said,
Yes.
honestly, with MSU this year, I believe they have 2 graduating edges with Cam Williams and Isaac Smith, the transfers from Georgia State, Texas Tech. So I would prefer to see
Mm-hmm.
at least one more edge, if not someone in the portal. But I do think you need to get
Yep.
that room redeveloped and get that edge group going. And the more players you can put in that group, the better. It's just like defensive backs. If there's 3 of them committed, I'm happy. Uh, Obviously, defensive backs this year, we already have 5, 6 of them committed.
Yep. And some of those prospects we're still hoping to land from previous week visits. I know Chris Addison and Logan Nagel were two targets that MSU is still really working hard on trying to land. Addison being an edge rusher and Nagel being more of an interior defensive lineman, but still looking to try to add some power and some commitments to the offensive line. I'm sorry, defensive line. So they're still working hard on those. This weekend we did have 4 official visitors coming into campus. 2 of them were already MSU commits, but I'll break that down here for you guys real quick. This weekend's visitors were quarterback Cade Kaufman from Grand Rapids, Michigan. He's been an MSU commit for quite some time now. Jack Lansing the third, athlete from Heartland. He's also been pledged to MSU for a while. And then the 2 non-MSU commits were running back Jamal Rule from Charlotte, North Carolina, and wide receiver Tyron Wortham from Sarasota, Florida. Jamal and Tyron are both prospects that the staff has identified as players they really kind of are hoping to fit in. Tyron's already committed to UCF, I believe. I don't know if he's
Yep.
decommitted, but
Still
he,
committed as of this recording. Obviously, it's
yeah.
9:30 on
So he,
it's 9:30 on Saturday the 21st. By the time this comes out, things could change. Recruiting changes in a heartbeat. So we're just trying to keep up with the rest
yep,
of you.
absolutely. So he is a consensus, or I should say, 24/7 composite, 4-star. He committed to UCF currently, but it sounds like he may be wavering potentially from that. MSU is going pretty hard after him. We'll see if Coach Hawk and Coach Smith can make the flip out on that. He's 6 foot, about 175 pounds. Very talented wide receiver. Is fast. Ran track in high school. Ran about an 11.3, 11.2 in the 100-meter dash. So has some speed, but he would be a certainly a good prospect to pick up. And then Jamal Rule, the running back, he's about 6 foot, 205 pounds, and MSU is battling with the other schools such as Nebraska, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, NC State. I think Nebraska is kind of the main threat there with that one. So we'll see if we can pull that out there. But those are kind of the 2 official visitors that weren't already committed. I also want to shout out Cade Kaufman and Jack Lansing for coming on an official. Cade Kaufman especially because it was kind of released by I think Corey Robinson had mentioned it this week when Cade had came on for his official visit and was posting on social media. Cade has been to East Lansing, I think, every weekend this month on
Mm-hmm.
unofficial visits, with helping trying to get players to commit and helping the staff recruit. Shout out to him. he's really put in some effort on building up this class. He's kind of one of the big fishes, I guess, of this class, if you want to say. Has been shooting up the recruiting boards. He's a composite 4-star, 24/7. Has him rated, I think, as the 10th quarterback. I know On3 had him higher. So he's a really good piece of this class, and he's really busted his butt to try to help get some extra pledges this cycle. So shout out to Kate and Jack for coming and helping the staff try to hopefully win some new pledges on this. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at recruiting wise. Those two that were on campus this weekend in Tyron and Jamal, as well as pieces like Logan Nagel, Chris Addison, Khalif Canty, Simon Gash to an extent, couple players like that have been. Oh yeah, Charles Belser, players like that have been on previous visits. We're still working hard for them. There's a few that have set commitment dates as we've talked about, so we'll hopefully know the final decision on some of them within the next couple weeks, and then we will of course update you as we know. But yeah, still some pieces that we hope to fill out soon in this class and round it out as continue the good luck. If you follow recruiting rankings, obviously they're far from set. Signing day is not till December, but as of right now, according to 24/7, we are sitting at number 26 in the composite rankings for class. So that will probably change before I even get this edited and posted, but that's where we're at as the time we were recording. So, guys, final thoughts on football recruiting?
I was just gonna say, hopefully it's better by the time you're recording. Hopefully that just means adding in one or two other players. But you have to love, hopefully, the future guy under center, Cade Kaufman, just coming back every single week, trying to get these players to come, trying to get these guys to throw the ball to, get these guys to protect them, get these guys to hand the ball off to. Like if you have a guy like Cade Kaufman that you see so invested in Michigan State, it's obviously a good sign. Obviously, we all know that the world of recruiting can change throughout the process, but having a guy that is so seems so dedicated to your team is something that is really cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. To build on what Zach said, obviously that's the advantages of having an in-state quarterback as your commit because it's a lot easier for him to drive that hour over from Grand Rapids to East Lansing. And that's one of those hidden benefits that you don't really think about on the recruiting trail. That said, obviously, recruiting can change in a heartbeat, but having your quarterback being there pitching MSU and telling them, it's my home school and I want to stay in my own backyard, and pitching athletes from all across the country to come and join him at East Lansing, especially with this coaching staff that has their West Coast ties, it is something that you love to see because now you have a player you can build with and a player who's going to sell everyone on his vision. He's being a leader before he's even officially stepped foot in the locker room as an MSU quarterback. Obviously, right now, he's an MSU pledge. Slight difference there. I'm sure all the people who followed recruiting cycles in the past know all about. Yeah, they are a commit for now. I definitely think Cade Kaufman is that guy who will be sticking the course, and I'm very excited to see him in the green and white. I think he has a chance to be that quarterback of the future after Aiden Childs. Also, one more thing for MSU football commitment news. 2027 defensive back Khalil Terry did decommit this week. We had mentioned it at the time during I believe he signed December 1st. We had mentioned that obviously there is a lot of recruiting left to do. And within weeks of Terry committing to Michigan State, they lost to coach Demetrius Martin to UCLA because he wanted to move back home. So I was honestly a little surprised he stuck it out as long as he did, 6 months. His recruiting is starting to take off now, and without the coach that drew you to East Lansing, it's not surprising to see a decommitment from 18 months away from his signing day. So
yeah,
I wish him the best. I don't think many of us expected him to stick the course, especially after Coach Meade left for UCLA. But that is something just worth mentioning that we no longer have a 2027 commit. It's not the end of the world. I want to say 115 other Division I colleges don't have a commit right now for 2027.
Yep. Yeah, that's not the end of the world. There's still plenty of time with that. And actually, we have some momentum with some other players in 2027 that have been offered. So who knows?
The coaches were just about to start talking to those guys 2 weeks ago. Officially start talking to those guys 2 weeks ago. So obviously there is a lot of time in 2027. No, the sky's not falling because you don't have any commits yet. almost every single program
Yeah.
doesn't have commits yet for 2027.
Yeah. So, but good luck to Khalil, and yeah, that's about it for recruiting. Couple of news stories that broke this week in basketball. I'll go through them all, and then we can get our reactions on them. The main news this week, the unfortunate news, one of our biggest, if not our biggest, portal pickup this offseason. Caleb Glenn, unfortunately, the news broke that he tore his patella tendon and will miss the entire season next season. Sounds like he's going to be taking a medical red shirt, so he will be able to play again for MSU, just not next season. Unfortunate news for the Spartans because that was going to be a potential starter for us and someone who is going to lock some big minutes. So tough break. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with Caleb and hopeful, strong vibes going out to his recovery. I think he already went in for surgery on it. So
Yes, he did.
hopefully that will be something that he can heal quickly from and recover fully from. But tough news for the Spartan basketball program. Other sad news, not nearly as severely sad, but sad news. Jace Richardson did not get a green room invite for the NBA draft, so he will not be attending the draft. I don't know what prompted that decision. Kind of surprising considering he's touted to be a mid round selection, lottery pick, kind of right into that 10 to 20 range potentially, which you normally have those players at the draft for because that's kind of right in the wheelhouse. You want all those players there, but whatever. So he did not get that invite. So tough break for him, but I'm sure he will have some spectacular draft night plans with his dad and mom and brothers. So that's that. Some scheduling news. It's not 100% confirmed exactly when yet, but it sounds like MSU will be taking part in a home and home series with Arkansas in the future. Coach's own coach Cal working together to get some good games scheduled on the non-conference slates for the next couple of seasons. So more will probably be coming about that here shortly.
The
But
first game would be in the
encouraging news if
Breslin,
you're
worth mentioning.
Yep.
yeah, yep. First game would be at the Breslin, so potential another big profile team coming to the Breslin Center in the near future. Yay, hard non-conference schedule once again.
Right after you lose a big, of course that happens.
Yep. And speaking of non-conference schedule, the Duke game was officially finalized. That will be December 6th at the Breslin Center. So mark your calendars, get your tickets as soon as possible for that. But Duke coming in as part of the makeup from the home and home back in COVID times. But yeah, Duke will be December 6th in East Lansing. So all that basketball news, guys, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll give my quick thoughts real quick. Sucks about Caleb Glenn. Obviously, you never want any player and any team to ever get injured, especially a season-long injury. It's an injury that does take a while to come back, so it'll be definitely not a easy road for him. So definitely wish him the best of luck on his recovery. Sounds like surgery went pretty well. At least it didn't seem like it went like any issues.
He still has
So
two
that's
legs. That's
obviously
all we
good.
know.
Yeah, that's obviously good. It is obviously disappointing for next year. He was going to be a guy that was going to contribute for this team quite a bit. Do I think he was going to be a starter? Maybe, possibly. If he wasn't, he was going to probably be the first guy off the bench. So obviously, he was going to contribute. He had size. He could shoot. And he was a guy that a lot of people were really excited for coming to Michigan State. So unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. Now, obviously, he's going to be able to medical redshirt. He's going to be able to come back. And I think if you look at the bigger picture of this whole thing, is that if you think about it long term, or at least going into next year, which I know a lot of people don't love the whole fact of like let's look forward to next year, right? Because with the portal and NIL, like you never know. Like we experienced that this past off season, but like you have a chance here for Cohen Carr to take another leap. You have a chance here for Cam Ward to get more minutes. I think that's one guy coming in that a lot of people are really excited about. He's going to be playing key minutes. You also have a couple other players that are going to be key players as well that's going to really have to continue to step up. And if you look at one position that you could, I don't want to say afford to lose someone, I think it's one of those that maybe Caleb Glenn you could kind of afford a little bit. Obviously, with Corin Carr, you have Jackson Kohler, you have Jordan Scott, you have, like I was saying, Cam Ward. I think Jordan Scott's going to be another guy that is going to have to probably play at least a decent amount. He can obviously shoot better, than Cam Ward and Corin Carr. At least that's what it seems like. So you're going to have a pretty young team behind kind of the stars. You're going to have a veteran group in the stars, and then you're going to have a kind of a young people behind them. So I think overall, obviously, this isn't what anyone wanted or expected, but this is a real chance to kind of allow these younger guys to take a step forward because they're going to have to.
Yeah, I completely agree with Zach that obviously short term this is uh, not you're not hitting the panic button, but you're not feeling great either. And it's just a matter of
You're
because I
close to
thought
it.
Glenn was going to be the sixth man off the bench and potentially compete for Big Ten sixth man of the year. I was that high on him, and I still am. I think he's going to attack this recovery. Obviously, this year stinks not to have him, especially when you're looking to replace Jace Richardson. You're looking to replace Frankie Fiddler. You're looking to replace Trey Hallman, Shimon Zapala. When you have those four players all gone, obviously having another player who can step up and has logged major starting minutes, has logged minutes in ACC competition back when they were good, when he was with Louisville. Obviously, Louisville wasn't good, but when he was with Louisville and the ACC was good, he's logged minutes there. So he knows the competition coming in, and obviously it's going to hurt not having him. You might have to go through some growing pains. You might have an out of conference loss at a Duke game, an Arkansas game, a UNC game, where it may snowball a bit. You may see a Michigan State 20-point loss. Do I think that's going to result in? Do I think this injury is going to result in MSU spiraling out, missing their first tournament in 20-something years? Hell no. But do I think that you might see early in the season, you might see a bad loss? Sure. You might see them struggle to put away an opponent who they should easily beat. At the same time, we saw that last year, and Elite Eight, I would say it turned out pretty good with them finding rhythm and finding a way to adapt. Obviously, you don't have the same adapting from Tyson Walker. You have adapting to a scholarship player on your team that you expect to be on the team that's no longer there. My biggest concern is, of course, that now you have two bigs who've had injuries because you have Jesse McCulloch, who was in a boot, I believe, earlier this year. So there is a little concern there because your big depth, especially at the start of off-season training, is just starting to get a little thin. I don't believe McCulloch's out of his boot yet. So you're just that there's that fear of the unknown now when you don't have as many bigs to practice against. Hopefully, it's not going to be a huge issue in the future. But until then, you're just kind of keeping your fingers crossed. And obviously, last year, if you had told us Elite Eight when you lose Tyson Walker and Malik Hall, your two best scorers from the previous year, you take it, no doubt. So I'm definitely going to say trust Tom Izzo, trust this Michigan State basketball process, and let it all play out. As far as the scheduling news goes, I think this out of conference, it's a really unfortunate year to have Caleb Glenn out for the year. When you have three big name opponents already confirmed with Duke, UNC, and Arkansas not fully confirmed but highly expected, it is just a very nerve-wracking moment when you're now out a player who you expect to log in the top 5, top 6 for most minutes on the team. That's a concern. And then as far as the Jace Richardson news goes, honestly, if he was 2 inches taller, you already know he would have been one of the first 12 players invited. So this is just the NBA and the media making it out to be that because he's 6'1", he's gonna fall. I don't think Jace Richardson slips on draft night, and I think he's gonna have a better time with his family and his friends than he would being stuffed in the green room with 15 cameras in his face.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I tend to agree. So that'll wrap it up pretty much for basketball. One piece of hockey news I wanted to get into for sure. MSU did pick up another commitment. It won't be for this season, but it was a pretty big deal. So it's definitely worth mentioning. Mason West from Edina, Minnesota. We had kind of talked about him, I believe, a little bit last week, but he officially did announce his commitment. He is a forward, also played football in high school, and
Three-star quarterback.
is 6'6". Yeah, so he is 6'6", so maybe we can get some dual sportage. Jonathan Smith, pay attention. He had 49 points in 31 games last year in high school, and then so the plan currently for him is to play his senior season in school. He will probably be an NHL draft pick in in a week from now. The NHL draft is next Friday, so he will more than likely get drafted, finish out his senior season, and then he can come to East Lansing maybe next fall, or he may choose the USHL option for one more season. So I won't be a Spartan until 2026, maybe 2027, but it's still definitely noteworthy because he is a really solid recruit and yeah, another NHL draft pick more than likely that will join Adam Nightingale's roster. So congrats to the Spartans on that pickup. Another thing I wanted to mention about hockey, no news yet on the recruitments of the heavy hitters still out there from the CHL crossover, aka Gavin McKenna or Porter Martone. Those are the two big forwards that are linked to MSU, I guess. Technically, due to some roster flexibility, I think we could technically make room for both, though I think that's more unlikely. I think we're still probably going to go with one. MSU linked to both of them. So is Penn State for both. I know Michigan's still in the running for Gavin McKenna. Denver's also had their hat and considered to be someone who's linked. So no real updates on where Gavin McKenna stands. Porter Martone, similar to, I know he's been really tied to Penn State, but looking at their roster of late, Penn State would actually have to, their roster's technically full. So if either one of them commit, they would have to get rid of somebody. Not that that's impossible, and I'm pretty sure they would do that for either Martone or Gavin McKenna, but that's just something that is noteworthy. With talking with some people I know, that also is kind of maybe a plus in the MSU column for either of those recruitments because we do technically have a roster spot open. Obviously, we'll update you guys when we get more news regarding that. It's just it. I want to kind of point this out for those who don't really follow hockey recruitment as closely. It's kind of crazy being mentioned, and it just kind of really shows how far this program's came under Adam Nightingale so far. It's not underselling it, but Gavin McKenna, we've talked about him. He is a generational type recruit. Porter Martone is more than likely going to be a top 5 pick next weekend in the NHL draft, and he probably won't be 5th. I would be surprised potentially if he got past 4. It's possible. The NHL draft is finicky with prospects, but he's deserving of a top couple of picks. And so to see these types of players being heavily linked to MSU, wanting to come to MSU, I forget which. There was a podcast I was listening to about the NHL draft this past week, and I really am upset that I'm forgetting which one. But projected number 1 overall pick in this draft, defenseman Matthew Schaefer. He's kind of a shoe-in for the Islanders at number 1, more than likely. It looks like not confirmed or not a done deal yet, but definitely the best prospect. And so they were debating on whether if the Islanders drafted him, would he have the potential to go and play professional hockey or make the Islanders this year, or if he would come back and make the jump from the CHL and play NCAA hockey. And they were talking about what the NCAA or CHL routes would look like. And they flat out said, would it be him developing at Boston College, or would he want to take the chance and try to win a national championship at Michigan State? Now, that's not saying MSU is going to land him. I don't even think MSU is going to recruit him. We don't really have a defense spot open. I don't necessarily know he's even going to play college hockey, but it just goes to show you that type of level of prospect being linked on a podcast saying he could go to play college hockey, and if he wanted to win a national championship, MSU is his best shot. So congrats to Adam Nightingale. This is just kind of putting in perspective where this program's at right now, because it's really kind of crazy. You're getting potentially 2 or 3 of the top 5 prospects over the next 2 years being heavily linked to MSU. So it's a fun time to be a Spartan hockey fan. Mason West, congrats on the commitment. That's just what I wanted to add on hockey. But it's a good time to be a Spartan hockey fan, so enjoy it definitely, because this isn't something to take for granted, and it's certainly not common. So just keep that in mind. But boys, you want to mention anything about hockey before we wrap it up for the night?
And Nightingale doing Adam things. Like, he's just been so good. And we talked about the contract negotiation, the contract, just a 5-year run rollover deal. It's just continuing to happen. It's just building into one of those teams that is going to compete next year, going to hopefully continue to compete for championships. And it's going to be tough because there's going to be a lot of really good teams next year in hockey, and MSU is going to be one of those.
Yeah, to build on what
Yes.
Zach said, We all talk. We all see the threads on Twitter or X, Threads, whatever app you use really for your social media about all the good days for Michigan State football back 2013, 2014, and how you wish you could tell yourself to go back and enjoy it. For MSU hockey, that is this moment that you're going to want to continue to enjoy. The team is dominant. The team is winning recruiting battles. The team is bringing in top five talent, and not just in terms of overall recruit rankings. We're talking top five NHL draft picks. We already have one on roster, and you potentially are looking at one, two more. So you have to enjoy this moment. Sure, they're going to be Spartans for 1 year and probably out to the pros, but that's not something that we don't look down on someone like Jaren Jackson Jr. for doing that. We didn't look down at Miles Bridges for having 2 years as a Spartan. Accept that part of hockey and just enjoy the season. It is going to be a great year to watch Spartan hockey.
Absolutely. And one piece of information I will leave us with, I just noticed this and I don't think we've mentioned it yet. The running back recruit Jamal Rule that we are looking into has set a recruitment date for Monday, June 23rd. So he officially named his top four to be Nebraska, MSU, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech. So we will know the status of Jamal Rule Monday.
Did that just happen? Did we just get breaking news, or has it been a thing?
It happened earlier today, apparently, but I just saw it. So
Hey, you know what? That has to be decent timing, right? Hopefully.
yeah, so yep, he announced that on
That's just a
Instagram earlier
sign.
today. It looks like Corey had kind of put it out there too. So yeah, we will know his status of 2 days from now, and that's maybe I have no idea how this weekend went for an official visit for him, but setting a recruitment date after leaving a visitor location, hopefully that's a good sign. Sometimes it
And
is.
you're in the top four. That really
Sometimes,
matters because we've had a recruit visit and then
yep.
say, actually, I meant to put them in my top six when it was the top five.
Yeah, exactly. So I would like to think that's a good sign, but that could also mean maybe he was leaning Nebraska and came here and then decided, oh God, nope, I got to go to Nebraska. So I guess we'll find out. But yeah, we'll know the status on one of the priority targets left for the Spartans here in a couple of days. So of course, we'll let you know if that turns out favorably for us. Hopefully, sorry, I've got a dog trying to sabotage my microphone, but hopefully that goes well and we'll have number 19 to add to the class. So that's all we have for this week. I appreciate everybody tuning in and listen to us yammer for another week. We appreciate you guys as always. I promise we'll be doing a mailbag soon. So much news, at least football recruiting wise, has kind of taken up most of our time on these shows. So we'll get to that soon. We do plan on having a couple of guests here shortly, and then we'll get a recruiting wrap up as the official visit season winds down. So lots of stuff coming, and then by the time that happens, we'll be roughly a month and a half away from college football starting. So we're getting closer, ever so closer. But we appreciate everybody. Have a good night, a good evening, good week, and as always, go green.
Go white.
Go white.